morning, friends and enemies. Week 5 in the novels. We're on to week 6, but before we make that move, we must recap everything that happened in week 5 as it relates to fantasy football. So as always, every Monday afternoon, we recap every single game that happened throughout the week 5 slate. It was a good one. The scores are soaring. Every drive starts at the 45-yard line. The kickoff rules that they changed, they're working, NFL, all right? Everybody starts in field goal range. And now with the balls being inflated or whatever's happening with the balls, it is literally field goal range as soon as you touch the ball, all right? So if you don't start the drive on your 40 and in field goal range, that's a you problem. There's coaching adjustments that need to be made there, all right? So with these improved starting ball positions on these drives, scores are happening, touchdowns are happening, yards are happening. There's just a lot happening in fantasy football, and we are going to dive into every single thing that happened in this week's game. And I must say, I just have to give a quick shout out to Rico motherfucking Dowdle, the GOAT. That's the theme of the week. A player, a running back that is a 5 out of 10 talent, a 5.5 out of 10 talent, is better for your fantasy lineups than a running back who is an 8 talent but has a 5.5 talent taking 30% of the snaps. It's just the truth of the matter. Rico Dowdle, when Chuba is out, is better than Chuba when Rico is in. Blake Corum, if Kyron were out, would be a better fantasy asset than Kyron is right now by himself. I know a lot of you very easy to disagree with right now, Kyron coming off of the big game, but I guarantee you, same thing would happen. This is what happens to all of these backups because they monopolize the work. Monopolization. Let's get into the first game, which is Thursday Night Football. We have the Rams and the Niners. There's something wrong with my software. Just give it half of 1 second. 1, 2, 3, and we're back. I got to put myself up on the screen. There we are. Let me move the camera right quick. And we're good to go. All right. The San Francisco 49ers somehow escape with a win here. 26-23. Mac Jones fills in admirably again. We don't really have a report on on Brock Purdy and his return timetable. He obviously re-injured the toe that was giving him issues. Maybe this gives them another excuse to sit him for a continued week to get him better, but we're just going to have to wait on reports there. C-Mac continues to be the best wide receiver in the NFL, another 8 for 82. The big storylines here are still that the wide receivers for San Fran are quite banged up, right? They did not have Juwan Jennings. They did not have Ricky Pearsall in this game. They obviously continue not to have Kittle or Brandon Ayuk. It does sound like Kittle is further returning in week 7 than he is in week 6, so you will probably be without him again. Jake Tongas was absolutely on our streaming radar for this one. 11 targets, tied for a team high, 41 yards and 7 catches and a touchdown. Now, I will say a lot of this stuff is going to look inflated because if you look up here, Mac Jones, 49 pass attempts, all right? 49 pass attempts is going to be something that elevates everybody's numbers. And I do want that to be a big takeaway. I talked about this a little bit in last week's preview. One of the easiest indicators, in my opinion, for whether or not a hot start will continue for a guy that's kind of on like the flex-worthy roster bubble spot is looking at what happened in the previous week and seeing whether or not big plays happened or random game scripts happened that allowed that team to run a significant number of plays. So Mac Jones threw the ball 49 times. They also had 33 runs. 82 plays in a game for an offense is an insane number. The league average is probably around 60, maybe 58 to 60. The teams with the most plays per game is probably going to end up around 65 to 66 per game at the end of the year. The teams with the fewest will probably be around 53 to 55. So 82 will very, very likely be the season high for the 49ers by a good margin here, right? On the flip side, the Rams only had 63 plays. 16 rushes, 47 pass attempts. So we see this often, and I pointed it out with Chris Godwin and why I wasn't really buying into him being a flex player in week 5, because in week 4 he got 10 targets, but that was because the Philadelphia Eagles scored a special teams touchdown off the rip and got up 14-0, and it just led to Baker Mayfield throwing it a million times. And it's going to be something that we talk about with the Giants as well, because the Saints not only had a 90-yard touchdown from Rashid Shaheed, which cuts the drive, it puts points on the board, cuts the drive immediately, takes no time off the clock, and gives the ball back to the other team. They also had a defensive score. So we're looking for very long touchdown plays. We're looking for defensive scores. We're looking for special team scores, right? Those things, those three pillars end up making the other team run a ridiculous number of plays, which usually spikes random players within that game's fantasy production, and it's not something we can count on for the following week. All right? This is all to say, Kendrick Bourne, massive day. Oh, by the in that Giants compilation, I realized I just went off script and then didn't even finish my thought. But because that happened with the Saints, Rashid Shaheed, defensive touchdown, Jackson Dart was asked to drop back 47 times. After a week prior, he only threw 20 passes in a game. So that's going to elevate a lot of players like the Theo Johnsons and those types of guys. But just keep that in mind when you're like, oh, this guy had a random spike week. Go back to the previous game they just played in. See if the other team had a defensive score. See if the other team had a special team score. See how many long touchdowns that other team scored, which inflates the number of plays that an offense can run. All right? Takeaway number one. Just remember that shit. Kendrick Bourne fills in and goes fucking full Jerry Rice here. 11 targets, 10 for 142. Jake Tonga, 741, and a touchdown. Now, I don't really know what to expect with this receiving group, right? Juwan Jennings has been dealing with the injury. Ricky Pearsall. When those guys are back, these other guys really fall back to absolutely nothing. Ayuk seems like he's still far away. Kittle, again, probably a week out. We'll just have to keep an eye on for the practice reports. If Juwan or Ricky Pearsall are back, like either of them, I don't really want anything to do with any of these guys outside of Christian McCaffrey. So that's kind of my takeaway there. On the Rams front, like they went down a touchdown and then McVay completely abandoned the run, and it looked beautiful. Stafford was fucking awesome, firing on all cylinders, 389 through the air, 3 touchdowns. Devontae, 5 for 88. Puka is normal, 10 for 85. Getting involved by the red zone now, scoring touchdowns. Kyron Williams got really involved through the passing game. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but this 8 for 66, 2 touchdowns had to be the most involved receiving game of his career because he's not typically too involved. He gets some dump-offs every now and then, but he was a pretty significant portion of this game here. I'm assuming it was because Robert Saleh was trying to take away the deep ball from a Devontae and Puka Nacua here. But yeah, really good game for Kyron. People that were worried about Blake Corum. Blake Corum had, an atrocious game. He had a fumble on a toss play that hit him right in the fingertips. Like, literally could have broke all of his fingers if it was a fastball. Really bad. Just drop it in the backfield. Somehow they have to fucking credit that to Matt Stafford as a fumble loss because he's the last person to have possession of the ball. Horrendous. And then he drops a wide open pass in the flat. So, like, Blake Corum, hold on to him. He's obviously a handcuff guy here, but yeah, that's it. Moving on to the Sunday morning game in Tottenham. Minnesota takes down Cleveland Browns 21-17. On the Minnesota side of things, we saw Jordan Addison get disciplined for the first quarter because I don't know that I have the full report yet if he missed the team walkthrough or he was late to the team walkthrough. I got to be honest, man. Like, what the fuck? You're a professional football player. How many other things you have on your calendar when you're in England or even if you're at home in Minnesota? Like, you have one thing to do for that day. It's like, get to the team. Your entire life revolves around this one thing that you're doing, and you can't. Like, I couldn't fathom doing that. Like, I feel terrible when I show up late to the office when we don't even have something on the time schedule. We're like, let's get there from like 10 to 10:30. If I'm there at 10:35, I feel like I've let everybody down for something that doesn't even fucking matter. I just can't imagine being a professional fucking football player and being like, yeah, we have a walkthrough today. And like your whole day is not revolved around making sure you get there on time. Like, it's crazy to me that he's having these off the field issues. Not the first time either. So like, weird. Obviously bounced back, scored the touchdown at the end of the game. I don't even know if I'd say bounce back. He basically did nothing until the last drive. He got like 15 fantasy points. Jordan Addison, 5 for 41, touchdown. Justin Jefferson, 7 for 123, gets home again. TJ Hawkinson, 6 for 38. So if you're in a full PPR, he was all right. But otherwise, he's been extremely disappointing. And there are a large number of players that I would be starting over TJ Hawkinson at this point in the season. Jordan Mason does get home because he gets into the end zone, 13 for 52 on the ground. He loses a fumble, which it felt like it was going to be maybe the last time we saw him. I just don't think they have enough like firepower behind him. They have Xavier Scott, who also lost the fumble. So it's like Jordan Mason will continue to be a workhorse until Aaron Jones returns. And I still think he probably gets the majority of the snaps and the carries in this backfield and just the overall touches for Minnesota, even when Jones returns. But obviously, it's going to be more of a split than him taking 90% of the touches like it's semi-been since he's been out. Now, Minnesota does have a bye after back-to-back international games, and J.J. McCarthy will be healthy enough to play. Whether or not he is the starter when he comes back remains to be seen. Carson Wentz has played well enough that I think Kevin O'Connell for sure has a decision to make. If he ends up starting Wentz for another game or two, I don't think it's the end of J.J. McCarthy's fucking career. I just think it's where the team is at right now. McCarthy was not playing well in the beginning of the season. We have not seen the last of McCarthy if Wentz is declared the starter after it. But I'm just saying, if you're in a Superflex league and you have one or the other, I don't think any direction is a guarantee. I don't think it's a guarantee that McCarthy is a starter after the bye. I don't think it's a guarantee that Wentz is a starter after the bye. So have alternative plans if only one of those guys is your plan B for the time being. On the flip side, the Browns played well enough to win this game. I think they should have probably won this game. Dylan Gabriel, first start, decent. Had some bad throws. Definitely overthrew some guys. A little bit of inaccuracy issues. Overall, though, he took care of the ball. I think he played the game that he should have. Playing against Brian Flores in your first start is not an easy task whatsoever, especially when you're traveling overseas. Like, just the time it takes to get over there and then also get situated in the new country and then also have to prepare for this crazy defense. Like, not an easy task. So I think all things considered, Dylan Gabriel played pretty well here. Pass catchers, Njoku just happened to be the guy for this one. 9 targets, 6 for 67, and a touchdown. Harold Fannin also gets in 4 for 13 and a touchdown. So it seems like he's relying on his tight ends right now. I don't know that I feel like this is sticky. Like, Njoku's the guy going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if those two just swap games from here on out. I think they're both like fringe top 12 options going forward. And I think that will clearly, one of them will usually have a very low floor. Like, if Fannin doesn't score the touchdown, he's borderline useless in this one. The other real takeaway here is Judkins just keeps, he is so good. There are just not many fantasy guys that I would want over him rest of season. He's getting every touch back there. And I mean, it's clearly not just a volume role. If you watch him play, he's powerful. He's decisive. He had like a 50-yard touchdown run called back from a holding call. Like, his numbers would have been monumental in this game if they didn't get that penalty. So Judkins right now is like one of the most solid players in fantasy football. And he's doing it, on this Cleveland offense. It doesn't really have threats elsewhere. So it's like the defense knows it's coming. He's getting 25 touches a game, and he's blasting off. And more often than not, he's going to score a touchdown for you. Isaiah Bond, healthy number of routes in this one. Let's actually just take a look at Fantasy Life and look at the snap counts for the Browns receiving room out here. So week 5, yep, Jerry Jeudy, 100% of the routes. He's been wildly disappointing. Not a guy that I was really in on. I've just never really believed in the talent of Jerry Jeudy, and I think we're kind of seeing that come to fruition. When he's not being played as like the flanker and in a good position, he doesn't have a lot of success winning on his own. Isaiah Bond now jumps up to 86% of the routes. He is the clear wide receiver 2 as long as Cedric Tillman is out. 21% target share, by far and away the highest of the receivers. I was going to say like 33% catchable target rate is bad. A lot of the targets kind of just like thrown up in his direction. I don't think he had a lot of chances to make plays happen, but 46% of the air yards, playing a lot of routes. There are definitely better days ahead. I'd almost look at Bond in the same way that I look at like Trey Tucker or Rashid Shaheed. He just hasn't had the production to back it up, where it's like, cool, running a lot of routes, probably due for a big game or two, but going to be difficult to actually predict when those things happen. So he's more of like a shaky fill-in during bye weeks right now. I should also point out that the Vikings continue to play without a lot of their offensive line, which is a big, big issue. So that could be another reason why they don't want to start McCarthy again right now if he has to play behind 3-4 guys that are not going to be fully healthy. Ryan Kelly's going to be out. Brian O'Neill, who knows, after the bye week he could be back, but yeah, it's not great. Speaking of not great, Colts Raiders. Colts 40, Raiders 6. It was so bad that Anthony Richardson actually got into the game. That should tell you something here. Daniel Jones has a good game. Jonathan Taylor has a ridiculous game. 3 more touchdowns. This guy actually probably could have like 15 touchdowns so far this year if they revolve their red zone offense around him. But They got to share the love a little bit. Tyler Warren gets home. Michael Pittman gets home. Josh Downs, good to see the 8 targets, 6 for 54. So decent day in PPR, but he continues to not run a ton of the routes here. Like even with Adonai Mitchell not playing in this one really at all because of what happened last week, they still ended up going with, Ashton Doolin as the 2 outside. Like it's gross out there for Josh Downs, unfortunately. So week 5, Michael Pittman, 84% of the routes, Doolin, 84%. Josh Downs, up to 72, but not something I feel like is sticky in terms of them running this many 3 wide receiver sets on a weekly basis. Also, just want to throw this in there. This site that I'm using with the snap counts and the routes run and all this stuff, beautiful, fantasylife.com. I plug it every single Monday. You guys should be a member already by now. They have subscriptions for the entire season, actually 365 days, so you'll get it all the way into a good chunk of next year if you sign up. It's really not even that expensive for all the amazing tools and features and data that they have in here for you. This is like, without a doubt, the unlock to be a much better fantasy player. So if you go to fantasylife.com, get any subscription on the site, use code BDGE when you check out, you'll get 20% off that subscription. And again, you'll have this through, the middle of next year. So very, very, very much worth the pretty discounted price on fantasylife.com. The link for that will be the first one in the description down below. What else is going on? The Raiders, Geno Smith looks terrible. This offense looks terrible right now. Brock Bowers, I feel like, is kind of the biggest takeaway here, in my opinion, in that he didn't play in this one, and we got news that he's also dealing with a bone bruise on his knee outside of just like the PCL tweak, which, from what I've gathered, people are pretty pessimistic about that. It does seem like he's probably going to miss at least another week. Like the bone bruise tells us that he needs to let that rest. Like he needs to let that heal. That won't heal by itself, and he'll continue to play in a very limited fashion if he doesn't. So there's a good chance that he misses next week and possibly even after that. So I will say one sneaky pickup, like Albert O was activated for this game, 5 for 36. It was because Michael Mayer had a concussion. I think if you're desperate at tight end, I don't even know if I'd go as far as desperate. I would say Michael Mayer, assuming he's back from a concussion next week and assuming Bowers is out again, I think Michael Mayer could be a really, really strong streaming option at tight end. So just keep an eye out for him. The rest of the passing game, man, Jacoby Myers, I thought he was going to have a strong bounce back day because the Colts were without Kenny Moore and the game script went really in favor of the passing offense for the Raiders. Didn't end up happening. So just hard to trust the Raiders offense right now with the way that Geno is playing. Ashton Genty, good to see him get involved in the passing game though. 5 for 42, led the team with 7 targets. And this was something that was going to happen, right? Like even in the videos that we talked about selling Ashton Genty, it was like he's playing so many downs, so many base downs, so many early downs that the targets are eventually going to come. Just because you're not like the passing down back, just because you're not playing on long down and distance snaps, just because you're not playing in 2 and 4 minute drills, which is what we see so many offenses do. They have like a workhorse and then they have this dedicated back to play those random roles. The original back is playing on so many downs on first and second downs that they're still going to run a lot of routes. They're still going to run more routes than the other back. And like the targets and the receptions are eventually going to come, like we're seeing with Jonathan Taylor on the other side of things, right? He's just playing so many downs that he doesn't need to be in for 2-minute drills in order to catch passes. And we're seeing that with Ashton Genty as well. Just, still running room hard to come by with Colton Miller, their best tackle, out for this one and going to be out for next month or so. Saints and Giants. The Saints get their first win of the season, take down the Giants 26-14 at home. Rattler plays a decent game. I would say the biggest takeaway for the Saints would be Kendre Miller out carries Alvin Kamara 10-8 in this one and probably looks better on the ground. I think we're in for a legit split, and Kamara's been really disappointing. This should have been a really good matchup for him, against the Giants, and should have seen some good production out of him. Unfortunately, it did not come. So I don't really know what to do with Kamara at this point. I think you probably continue to roll him out as a flex play, but like there are a lot of leagues where right now the fact that so many starting running backs are hurt, there are a ton of guys that you're playing over Alvin Kamara at this point. So there's a good chance that you can sit him. I also want to point out that Taysom Hill, first game back, 6 carries, didn't amount to much, but the opportunity is there. Also threw a pass, so he's definitely a stash at the tight end position. Hurts Juwan Johnson a little bit. 2 for 17. Juwan Johnson's kind of hitting a little bit of a lull in the season. I still think he's a fine streaming option, but Taysom Hill being back. They also activated, I believe, was it Foster Moreau? I can't even keep track of the fucking Saints tight end at this point. Another tight end that came back. So took a few of the snaps, I believe. Let's actually just check it out. It's like we have a damn tool that will tell us. Yep, Foster Moreau came back. So only ran 13% of the routes here. But listen, it went from Juwan Johnson basically being the only tight end here to now Taysom Hill back, Foster Moreau back. Taysom Hill was not really running routes. He was playing a secondary running back role, but still worth noting there. On the flip side, Jackson Dart, like I said, dropped back 47 times, threw 40 balls because they were trailing most of the time. Again, defensive touchdown. Rashid Shaheed, 87-yard touchdown catch. That was obviously due. I will say one of the big takeaways here is Darius Slayton leaves with a hamstring strain, and good chance he misses next week, if not multiple weeks after that, which will only condense the target share, especially for the receivers, which is pretty much only Wan'Dale Robinson. Bo Collins was a cool little preseason breakout guy, but I don't know that I feel confident saying that he should be rostered in any league. Daniel Bellinger, 4 for 52. Theo Johnson, obviously a very big game. 6 for 33, 2 touchdowns is what gets home for him. 5.5 yards per reception. Again, he just happened to be the guy that got the targets down there. I don't know that I feel like I'm ready to say that Theo Johnson is some fucking world beater. He got 7 targets on 40 pass attempts. So if we do the math there, that's 16%. Cam had 7. Wan'Dale had 7. Darius Slayton going down does spread the love a little bit more, but I do think more often than not we're not going to get 40 pass attempts from Jackson Dart here. So I think Theo Johnson is absolutely on the streaming radar because it's the tight end position, but I think I'm going to get some crazy sit-start questions that revolve around Theo Johnson next week, and I'm not ready to throw him into like a must-start category by any means. Cowboys and the Jets. The Cowboys whooped their ass, 37-22. Dak another 4 scores. Javonte Williams continues to dominate, looking like probably the best value pick in all of fantasy drafts through 5 weeks of the season so far. For the receiving side of things, Ferguson gets home, 749, 2 more touchdowns. George Pickens does end up getting home, 2 for 57 and a touchdown because of the 43-yard touchdown catch he had, which was beautiful. I will say Sauce Gardner traveled with him basically the entire game and locked him down basically the entire game, except for that touchdown catch, which was just George Pickens outworking him and, getting his hands on a deep ball and turning it into magic. But otherwise, that was one of my concerns about Pickens when CeeDee Lamb is out. You have these guys who only focus on Pickens, letting things open up for a guy like Ryan Flournoy, who career day, 9 targets, 6 catches, 114. I think he's from like Southeast Missouri or something like that. Yeah. Southeast Missouri State, 26 years old, 6th-round pick, 6'1", 202. Ran a 4.44 40, so kind of interesting. I will say, yeah, in terms of being interesting for the actual waiver wire, no. Here's the problem. When CeeDee Lamb comes back, Jake Ferguson, Ryan Flournoy, George Pickens, still going to be fine. And Ferguson's going to be fine too. But like all the intermediate, short, like over the middle part of the field that Ferguson's getting ridiculous volume of, CeeDee's going to get most of those targets. So Flournoy, no, I'm good, right? Like last week, there was a lot of people asking about Kamate Turpin and Jalen Tolbert on the waiver wire. Those are guys I'd rather not waste a roster move. I'd rather not waste a waiver move. I'd rather not spend any fab on those guys just because, like, why? You're going to have them on the bench for 1 week and then, like, whatever. At best, Ryan Flournoy right now, even in a best case scenario, he ends up being the wide receiver 3 in this offense. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, Javonte Williams. He's like the 5th best option, maybe. He won't have another game like this throughout the year. So again, I'm not like, don't be holding your breath for the waiver wire video that I put out tomorrow with the fucking Ryan Flournoy segment, all right? It ain't happening. Moving over to the Jets. Something else that ain't happening is them being fucking good anytime this year because they stink. The Jets are a brutal product, as always. Fields gets home statistically, but that's fake news, and we all know that. Breece Hall, great game. 14 for 113. That's going to happen when you're playing the Dallas Cowboys, whose run defense is so bad. Garrett Wilson gets home. I would say the biggest takeaways here are Isaiah Davis should absolutely be owned in this backfield. 1, he'll catch 3 to 4 passes a game now that Braylon Allen is out. 2, he's got the size that if something were to happen to Breece Hall, I do think Isaiah Davis would be a 65 to 70% snap guy. And it's the Jets offense. The running backs are not going to score a ton of touchdowns, but they always get a ton of targets, and they do get enough touches that if it's all consolidated into one guy, he's going to be really good for fantasy. So Isaiah Davis is built like a workhorse. He's really good in the receiving game. He needs to be owned. Breece Hall did get banged up in this one, left, but then ended up coming back. So nothing serious there. I will say, though, Breece Hall, like, there are a few guys that it makes a lot of sense for teams to move off of them before the trade deadline. I don't know that I'd predict it happening, but, like, that's another reason why I definitely think Isaiah Davis needs to be owned, because Breece Hall feels like a candidate that makes a lot of sense. They're 0-5 right now. They've got no playoff aspirations. Breece Hall is one of their very lone bright spots in the offense at this point. And this is around the time when you're looking for a contract extension for a guy like Breece Hall, right? Like, this is when you want to prove that you're good enough to get that fat contract extension. He's not going to be able to do it here in New York, right? Breece Hall and James Cook, same draft class. James Cook got his extension right now. So, we'll see. And with Breece, if he moves, I think like the Commanders make some sense. I think the Bears make some sense. I think a couple other teams out there, but even if it's a 5% chance, I think that 5% is worth having Isaiah Davis there for on your team. And then Mason Taylor is the other obvious pickup here. He's now put together back-to-back really strong games for the New York Jets at tight end. He was their second-round pick this offseason. He was a rookie out of LSU. Why can't I find the Jets? Rookie out of LSU, extremely strong hands, like one of the best pass catchers in the class coming out this year. Not a guy that's going to make a lot of guys miss after the fact. He's not going to like have huge gains where he's like, fucking juking dudes out and running for an extra 20, 30 yards. Not really his game, but running a ton of routes now is clearly the starter here and getting a ton of targets in an offense that has nobody else to throw the ball to. So Mason Taylor, another dude absolutely on the streaming radar at tight end. Broncos and Eagles, one of our upset picks of the week. Broncos win this one 21-17. J.K. Dobbins continues to dominate that backfield. Courtland Sutton continues to dominate the wide receiver room. Nothing else really to take away from the Broncos side of things, to be honest with you. On the flip side, I don't know what the hell happened with this game script, but the Eagles had 38 pass attempts, and the Eagles running backs had a total of 9 carries. Saquon Barkley, 6 of them. Now, Landon Dickerson got hurt in this one. He's been battling through injuries all year. It's probably better that he rests. I believe they play on a short week. I think they play on Thursday Night Football. So a good chance he misses. And, the Eagles have just been one of those teams when they're missing one of their better linemen, they start to struggle. And I wonder if they just said, like, Dickerson's out, our line's banged up, because they had a couple other guys that were in and out of the game most of the time. They're just like, we're not going to have success running the ball, even though I guess Saquon was averaging 5 yards per carry thanks to a 17-yard run. But clearly went in a different direction here. Devontae Smith ended up getting home. Saquon did through the air. A.J. Brown continues to kind of be the odd man out here. Not great. Not great for him. And I just think this offense, like, they're winning games, but it's almost like because they won the Super Bowl, they're like getting bored, and that's where the A.J. Brown comes from. Like, you don't hear teams that are like ascending and they're becoming great, and you hear guys complaining about their part in it unless they've already won. Like, that's where A.J. Brown is at now, and that's why I do have some like concerns about this offense and the way the off the field stuff is starting to pour over and become an every week issue at this point. I don't know what would solve this. I don't think anything will, but I do think it gets uglier before it gets better here for Philadelphia, just in terms of like the fucking cryptic posting and all that kind of stuff. But whatever. Panthers, Dolphins. I want everyone to stop what you're doing. I want you to put your phone down. If you're watching via TV, I want you to put your remote down. If you have your laptop out, I want your hands off the keyboard, and we're all going to clap together. Start clapping. I'll tell you when to stop. Stop. That clap was for Rico Dowdle. That clap was for my GOAT. That clap was for all the people that said Rico Dowdle couldn't do it. That clap was for Jerry Jones, who let Rico Dowdle walk in favor of Javonte Williams. So it looked like a great move. Shout out to Jerry. Jerry reminds me of me, just an owner of a team that knows how to spot running back value. Went out there, dropped $45 22% of my fab on Rico Dowdle this week in your idiot league mates. Threw him into my running back 2 spot. One of the more enjoyable moments in fantasy football history was watching Fat Rico Dowdle, Eddie Lacy of the NFC South, break off 30-yard runs, 40-yard runs, 50-yard runs on his way to a 206 rushing yard day. You just can't make it up. And it goes back to the theme of what I said earlier. One of the first things I said in this video. A 5.5 out of 10 back, a 6 out of 10 talent back by himself is better than an 8.5 back splitting time with a 6 out of 10 back. We want Rico by himself. I'd love Chuba by himself, but it ain't going to happen. If Chuba's healthy, Rico's taking work. If Chuba's out, Rico gets all. He gets it all. The only work that went elsewhere to Trevor Etienne was because Rico was double cramped up in his calves. The man was working so fucking hard that his body was like, you're not feeding me enough energy to allow me to make you a god. Give me bananas. Give me more pickle juice. Give me more water, and I will take you over 200. And he did. And he's a legend. And I will never forget week 5, 2025, Rico motherfucking Dowdle. My GOAT. 23 for 206. Here's the problem. Chuba's day to day. If he's back, I don't know what to do with this backfield. I'd like to think Rico could get a bigger role, but now that just messes fucking everything up. So we need Chuba to be out another week because they play Dallas next. Everybody destroys Dallas on the ground. And don't get me wrong, I know why this happened, because they're playing the Miami Dolphins, who are also fucking equally atrocious on the ground. But I don't care. That's the schedule. The schedule is a schedule. The price of a brick goes up when you play Miami, when you play Dallas, and they get Dallas next week, man. So we need Chuba to just rest. Just rest up. Hey, give us that JJ McCarthy treatment, Dave Canales. Say, hey. We're not letting our star player, who we gave a contract extension to, get back onto the field and know, unless we know he's 100%. Actually, make it 1,000%. Whenever you feel good, we're going to give you another week off, right? Rico's got this. You know the clip with Colin Cowherd when he's saying, when he's talking to LeBron James and he's like, LeBron, you want to retire? Ben Simmons, he's got this. He's the face of the league now. Like one of the most horrendous takes of all time. That's what I feel like right now. Like, we got this, Chuba. Sit your ass out. All right. I'm sorry. That was the most fucking useless bit of all time. But shout out to Rico. I love him. till the day I'm dead. Tet, 6 for 73, still cannot get into the end zone, but continues to be a really strong wide receiver too. And I honestly think that Tet is a good buy right now in fantasy. I will tell you one move I'm thinking about, because the Bengals got to be coming up here soon. Yeah, the Bengals, you know what? Once we get there, I'll talk a little bit more about Jamar Chase. But I'm probably trying to move off Jamar Chase now. And a guy like Tet might be a really good buy candidate. I was going to say, if Carolina didn't win this game and it ended on like a Bryce interception, I think there was a chance that we were going to see Andy Dalton soon. And I think Andy Dalton would turn Tet McMillan into fucking, into Devontae Adams at this point. Like, I think he'd be a 10 target a game guy with accurate targets, and that would have been a sight to behold. But I really like Tet going forward for the remainder of the season. Flipping the script to Miami, good game for Tua, 256 and 3 touchdowns. Their run game is just atrocious. I mean, 10 for 16 on the ground for Devon Achane. Ollie Gordon, 3 for -2 yards. Good thing their passing game was working, though. Waddle, 6 for 110 and a touchdown. I mean, this was obvious. Like, as soon as Tyreek Hill went down, Waddle automatically became a top 15 wide receiver. You know, I said I was not getting optimistic about Malik Washington or Nick Westbrook-Ikini. Those are guys that are like wide receiver 5s at best, not guys that I was trying to spend any fab on, and just kind of came to fruition. They're just not good enough to be guys that command a lot of targets. Jalen Waddle, on the other hand, when you give him the Tyreek Hill role, he's going to end up being a good player. He's gonna get all of their deep shots now. They don't even have another player that can like handle a deep fucking target at this point. So he's really good. If you have Waddle, you got a really lucky break that looks really good. Achane does get in, obviously, through the toe tap touchdown in the back of the end zone on that lob from Tua, which was a beautiful catch by Achane. Darren Waller, another big takeaway. He was by far and away our number one tight end pickup last week on the Waiver Wire show. We obviously have the Waiver Wire show every Tuesday morning, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you are not already. But yeah, we wanted every part of Darren Waller, all right? And we are not going to pause there. 5 for 78 and another touchdown. We saw his routes now finally jump up again. People were like, he's not a full-time fucking player. Like, obviously, he just missed the last fucking 2 months, you idiot. Think they're just going to make him 100% route runner? That's how you hurt a 33-year-old. Take it from me. Darren Waller, yeah. I mean, he went from 32% of the routes now up to 68% of the routes, and I think he's just going to continue to play. I mean, he's playing like they're like a slot role. Like, he's not even playing inline tight end at all. He's going to be their wide receiver too, basically. So you kind of just like got Jalen Waddle off the wire and maybe a better version of Jalen Waddle, a guy that they actually look to in the red zone. So Waller, to me, is like, there's not a ton of tight ends in fantasy that I feel much better about. That being said, they played Carolina, so. Texans, Ravens, I mean, this is disgusting for the Ravens. 44-10 in favor of Houston. CJ Stroud, huge game. Nico Collins gets home with the touchdown. Decent games all around for most of the receivers. I think the biggest talking point here would be Nick Chubb, 11 for 61 and a touchdown. Woody Marks only 7 for 24 and doesn't catch a single pass in that backfield. Now, this was one of the concerns. I know, we were high on him in the waiver wire video, obviously, but then the running back rankings video, I had him at, I think, like running back 24 or something last week. And considering there was 4 teams on bye and a lot of guys injured, that was, and I remember seeing a comment that was asking, like, it's crazy that everybody, goes crazy talking about Woody Marks and how big of a running back pickup he is, and then you rank him as like a borderline RB2 flex play. And it's because like when you're picking these types of guys up, like they're not automatic shooters, right? They're not automatic must-start guys. You're picking them up for the possibility of the upside that they can end up being, right? Like they played Tennessee last week, so it's not shocking that they had a great game in the backfield. But when someone was asking me on Saturday's live stream, the Q&A, they were like, oh, should I start Rico or Rashad White or Woody Marks? And I ranked them in that order. I was like, Rico has won the best matchup, and I feel the most secure about his role. Rashad White, I feel great about his role. The matchup is tough against Seattle. And then third, I was like, I like Woody Marks. The matchup is good. But is there a chance that Nick Chubb ends up being the one that gets the touchdown? Does he end up getting the 10 valuable carries? And that happened. That's always in the range of outcomes for players like this. Do I think Woody Marks is need to be benched now? No, I actually think he's going to be a fine flex play going forward, dependent on matchup. It just wasn't his game. And this is going to be the case. Like, you just factor these things in, and Chubb and Woody Marks are both like questionable flex plays with different levels of ceiling and floor. So Woody Marks, I mean, these games are always going to come. He's not fucking Derrick Henry, so we can't expect that every single week. Yeah, I mean, we need Lamar Jackson back quickly. I will say the one thing I do have hope for the Ravens is they have this game coming up in week 6. It's pointing towards Lamar probably missing, and then they got their week 7 bye. Cooper Rush, if you guys remember when he took over in Dallas last year, his first game was one of the worst games ever for a backup quarterback. It was really, really bad. And everyone was like, well, this guy's not usable. And then he turned it around and he was fine for the remainder of the games for Dallas. But it was really, really bad. It was like Jake Browning level of bad. And then he ended up being fine. So I will just say, keep that in mind. Like, I think Cooper Rush, his game will be better going forward. The Ravens' biggest problem is their defense right now. They have everybody out. So we'll have to watch the practice reports to see if, Marlon Humphrey can return, Kyle Hamilton can return, Roquan Smith can return, Chidobe Awuzie can return, like any of these guys. We need somebody. We need somebody back. Titans, Cards. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. This was like the worst game of all time by the Cardinals. I got to say this, and you guys know, like, if you've been following my videos, I am so not a fan of the Cardinals. Like, I just think they're the most untrustworthy team, like, in the NFL. It's the reason why I continue to have Marvin Harrison as like a shaky flex at the bottom of the dub flex tiers, because I just don't trust them as a team. Like, they're never, like, how do you watch them and you're like, yeah, this is a good team. These are guys that I want on my fucking fantasy team. It's bad. They're terrible. I'm a Falcons fan. We've had it bad. All right. We've had it bad over the last decade or so. I mean, there are Browns fans. There are Jets fans. I mean, okay, maybe I can't put them below the Jets, but I will say if there was a team that I would least want to be a fan of, it's like the Cardinals, bro. They're not only like bad, they underperform every time people think they're going to be good, and they're also like so fucking uninspiring. Like the Jets are at least a laughing stock, but you got some good players that you like. The Browns, like you're all in it together. It's like this shit sucks, but like this is our suck. You know what I mean? The Falcons, yeah, we fucking suck too. It's not fun being there in their fan base, but the Cardinals are just like, it's just like I hate them. I don't know why. I don't know why I take it so personally. Like I fucking hate the Arizona Cardinals, bro. They're so bad. Kyler is not the answer. I understand this is not all his fault, but like I would be shocked if Kyler Murray is the Cardinals quarterback in 2026. Shocked. Really, really would. I just don't know how people can watch football and be like, yes, he is the solution. One of the best athletes on the planet, no doubt about it. But that doesn't always mean you're a great NFL quarterback. And I think we've seen enough from Kyler to know that he just doesn't have the consistency. The height is a fucking issue. His being able to see the field is an issue. Being able to throw over the middle of the field is an issue, man. There's too many issues with him for him to ever be an elite quarterback. He's had elite fantasy runs before. Not what I'm saying here, but I just could not imagine being a Cardinals fan. I would hate my life. That being said, the running back situation needs to be monitored, of course. We've got Trey Benson out for a while, and, we said we liked Michael Carter the most in the backfield. That ended up being the correct take here. 18 for 51 and a touchdown on the ground. Caught 5 passes for 22 yards. Amari DiMercato, everybody has seen the clip at this point. He runs for the fucking 70-yard. Should have been touchdown. Drops the ball at the half-yard line. And I don't know if we're going to see him again. But Bam Knight, Zonovan Knight, filled in, got some carries, so he could be the RB2 going forward. Let's look at the snap counts here. It was pretty much all Michael Carter, and he should be relatively good. I would say RB2 flex play going forward. Again, like in the same vein that everyone was so overly optimistic about Woody Marks going into this week, you have to understand, like, the matchups matter. Like, just because Michael Carter was good, he did it against the Titans. I don't know who the Cardinals play next week. We'll check it out. It's the Colts. All right, it's not an overly scary matchup, but again, like when you play really bad teams and you have really big games, it does not mean that's going to transfer over to the next week. Michael Carter, though, good to see him monopolize a lot of the touches, and with the Amari DiMercato drop, I don't know when we're going to see him again, so this could be even more in favor of Michael Carter. Cam Ward, yeah, I mean, it's the Tennessee Titans. I don't know what to tell you. Calvin Ridley, shout out Calv. Never wrong, just early. 5 for 131. Never, ever wrong, just early. Finally, a breakout game. I don't know what to tell you. Does this make me feel better about Calvin Ridley? Not really. Not really. Tajay Spears, first game action back, 4 carries, 14 yards. Didn't play a whole lot. I do expect him to continue to get a little bit more and more of the workload as the season progresses. But for right now, I think Pollard's still a reasonably good flex player. Bucs Seattle. This was a fucking awesome game. The Bucs ended up winning 38-35 on a walk-off field goal. Baker continues to play out of his mind. I will say both quarterbacks continue to play out of their mind. They're both fucking awesome right now. Both legit contenders, in my opinion. Bucky Irving out for this one. Apparently the shoulder injury that he also has on top of the foot injury is, I wouldn't say like overly serious, but it seems like there's a good chance he misses another week because of the shoulder injury, which would obviously give way to Rachaad White. Now, Rashad's another example of the Rico Dowdle, where with Bucky out, Rachaad is such a high ceiling, high floor player because he gets so much of the work here. And Seattle's run defense is awesome. I think Seattle is a legit contender. I tweeted this out earlier. Sam Darnold is playing lights out. Their running game is good between Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Their receivers are playing very well. Their run defense is awesome. The problem with them, and this is why the Bucs ended up winning, is because their secondary, which should be a strength for them, is so banged up. So they have Julian Love out, their starting safety. They have Devon Witherspoon's been out. You have Tariq Woolen, who now suffered a concussion in this game. And then their second round safety, Nick Amanwari, is also banged up in this game. So there's a chance that they're without 4 of their top starters in the secondary. And that's going to mean they are a complete pass funnel defense. So that was the issue here against them. But if all healthy, like Seattle's 3-2 right now, very easily could have won that game. Very close game in week 1 against the Niners as well. Like they're just a good team, man. They're not going to let teams run away from them. They're not going to let teams pull away. at full strength, like when they're healthy, they're a legit contender. JSN continues to be absolutely goated. I think a lot of people are going to jump up for AJ Barner. I mean, I don't know. I mean, put him on the streaming option, I guess. 7 for 53, 2 touchdowns. Let's actually check out the snap counts for him. Yeah, 62% of the routes. Arroyo still at 44%. I don't know. It's hard to have confidence in streaming a guy who's running about 60% of the routes. For the backfield, I mean, it's just the same thing every single week, right? It was one of the reasons we ranked Walker as like a borderline flex play, because we're like, I'm just not confident that when we get down to the goal line that Walker is going to get those scores. So week in and week out, Walker is going to have the most impressive 12 for 90, no touchdown game you've ever seen. And Zach Charbonnet is going to have the least impressive 10 for 40 and a touchdown game you've ever seen. And that's what's going to happen in 80% of their games. So just start them accordingly. Walker is it's weird to say, but Walker's a very high floor player because he's really good. But his ceiling games feel like they're, if Charbonnet's playing, his ceiling games are like 10 for 90 and a touchdown, right? Charbonnet is a really low floor player because if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's not putting up any yardage for you. He seems to score a touchdown every fucking week, so I guess it doesn't matter, but you get the point. Who do the Bucs play next week? Bucs play the Niners, so not an easy defense. I was going to say, if the Bucs had a good matchup, like Rashad White could do what Rico Dowdle did this week. Emeka Ibuka continues to be a fucking goat. Down game from Godwin, and ended up filling in really nicely. Tez Johnson's getting some run out here, actually, and that's kind of been a theme for the Bucs, I think, over the last few weeks, if I'm not mistaken. 49% of the routes. Okay, maybe I am mistaken. He's getting a little bit more burn. He's being a little bit more involved. Obviously, you don't need to, hold on to him in deeper leagues, or you don't need to hold on to him in any real leagues, but something to just keep an eye on there. Tez Johnson, throw him in the back burner. Sean Tucker, yeah, I mean, 3 for 3, 3 for -4. Nothing cooking there. Lions, Bengals, every single player for the Lions got home. I mean, I'm talking about everybody. Demont, Gibbs, St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Isaac Tesla, Brock Wright. Like, we're talking about Brock Wright getting home. We got problems. That's going to happen against the Bengals' fucking atrocious defense. This one was saved, not even saved. I should just say there was hope for fantasy owners because Jamar Chase obviously ended up cashing our 2 touchdown parlay we took on him. Makes an amazing catch in the back of the end zone for his first touchdown, like threading 3 defenders to score, and then catches a 64-yard bomb from Browning that ends up getting home. So Jamar had a monster game. I will say, as a Jamar owner in my big league, I do feel like, I mean, how do you watch the Bengals and be like, hell, it's like before those big plays, before those touchdowns, it's like in a PPR league, you're hyped for Jamar Chase to catch a 7-yard pass. You're like, thank fucking God, like every time he catches a ball, you're like, oh my God, it can't get better than this. This is the best it's ever gonna get. So I'm like really thinking of downgrading Jamar Chase to someone that's in like a tier below and maybe picking up another piece or something like that. But I kind of want to get out of the Bengals offense entirely. Like T. Higgins is, I mean, he's unusable. He scored the touchdown at the very end of the game, but another absolute stinker from him if he doesn't get home there. Yeah, I mean, the other thing too, I guess I will say that I'll have a little bit more optimism on for Jamar Chase in the Bengals passing game is, again, really tough run out of games for Browning. Like, he comes in, he's got to play at the Vikings, at the Broncos, the Lions, and then at Green Bay. After that, though, Steelers, Jets, Bears, Steelers, Patriots, Ravens, Bills, Ravens, Dolphins, like Cardinals. The rest of the season schedule after the Packers is really, really light. It was one of the reasons that we wanted to pick Jamar Chase to begin with, was because, I mean, that schedule was going to be fucking beautiful. Fortunately, we're not going to see that alternative universe play out. But yeah, I don't know, man. Do they make calls for another quarterback? I don't know. I don't know how realistic that is. Like, it's like, yeah, do we trade for Russell Wilson? Is that realistic to get Russell Wilson and then him being up to speed with the playbook and him being able to run the offense within like 2 weeks? I don't know. I really just don't. Commanders, Chargers. Commanders took care of business here. The Chargers are in trouble with that offensive line. Clearly, Jaden Daniels' first game back. 231 and 1 through the air, 39 on the ground. Biggest story here is, of course, Ja'Cory Krosky-Moret. Hopefully, y'all held on to him. He was always the back to own in the backfield. We just wasn't sure when it was going to pop. And now he popped. And I cannot imagine you put Bill back in the bottle. Bill stays out of the bottle at this point. 14 for 111, 2 touchdowns, 2 for 39 through the air. So you're talking about a $150 total, 2 touchdowns. The Chargers' run defense, not a good one, but I don't care. JCM looked fantastic. Jeremy McNichols, 1 carry. Chris Rodriguez, 5 carries for 7 yards. I just don't understand how you could look at this backfield and not imagine JCM is an every week starter going forward. I think I will rank him as a dub flex going forward because, again, just like with Woody Marks and Nick Chubb, we've seen a sample of these offensive coaches kind of do this, where they just ride the hot hand for that week and maybe ride this guy for a series and that guy for another series. JCM is clearly the most talented. It's not close, but the game of fantasy is not just looking at a player and saying, is this guy talented? Cool. I'm going to win if I go off that. If that were the case, Kenneth Walker would be getting 90% of the touches. Zach Charbonnet wouldn't be, but anyone who owns Kenneth Walker knows that your fucking, theoretical upside of how talented he is doesn't fucking matter if they're going to keep giving these other guys carries. So I'm not fully bought into the fact that they're just going to cut everybody else out of the backfield. But obviously a huge step in the right direction for Ja'Cory Krosky-Moret. Terry McLaurin misses another game here. Deebo Samuel pops off because of it. Deebo, obviously, just a great player in fantasy at this point. I don't really know what to make of the Terry situation. The other hand, Herbert, again, under so much pressure without his tackles, like that's obviously a problem, but it is leading to him running more. So 60 yards on the ground really saves his fantasy day. Omar and Hampton, relatively underwhelming day. In PPR, he gets home because he catches 6 balls, but he did tweak something at the end of the game. I've heard mixed things, like it was an ankle thing, which could be scary, but I also heard from one doctor that he said he went back and watched the tape and it looked like a cleat hit him on the side of the leg or the side of the ankle, which would be good. That's like best case scenario because it's probably just a scratch and force him to come out of the game. If it's an ankle, though, and even if he came back in afterwards, those are tricky because a lot of times players can play through them with adrenaline. Like you see that with a lot of muscle strains or ankle sprains. And then throughout the week, it starts to swell up and it gets worse. So Hampton's definitely one to obviously keep an eye on. I don't know that I trust either of these running backs behind him, Hassan Haskins, Kamani Vidal, to really do anything. Hampton ends up missing any time. Neither of them are very overly talented. Neither of them, we don't really know the fucking roles of those two. And the offensive line is obviously struggling tremendously at this point. So I think they'd be pretty desperate flex plays if Hampton misses time. The wide receiver group, just more of the same, just not really being able to predict what the fuck's going on here. Keenan, 558, 4 for 40 for Quentin, and then Ladd, 5 for 39, and a touchdown. So he finally gets home. It's not like he was going to have 0 touchdowns on the year. Also had a return touchdown called back from a holding call, but yeah, I don't know that this makes me feel any differently from the receiver room there. Patriots, Bills, what a game. Drake May looks like a beast. Diggs, he's really coming into his own now. 10 for 146, 12 targets. You knew he had a little extra spice for the Bills there. Making his return. Ramondre, of course, fucking fumbles again and loses it. This backfield is doing everything they can to make Travion Henderson drafters look good, and it just will not happen. Antonio Gibson takes a big hit on a return. Looks like it's a pretty damn serious knee injury. He was crying coming off of the field. So I would expect him to miss a significant portion of time going forward, which condenses the backfield and definitely means good things for Travion Henderson, of course. Ramondre was benched for a little bit, but they ended up coming back into the game in different opportunities, ends up getting the two rushing touchdowns. I actually low-key think Ramondre is kind of a really good buy low right now. I guess it's hard to buy low with a guy coming off of 2 touchdowns, but I don't think they have a choice to bench him. It's very clear to me. Travion Henderson is very explosive. He's a very fun player. He could run great routes. Very clearly, there is something that the coaching staff does not trust him with. If I had to guess, it's the pass blocking, right? And they probably just look at him and realize he's not anywhere near as powerful as a runner of Ramondre Stevenson's quality. And that's why they put Stevenson in on the goal line. And it's ironic because Henderson coming out just seemed like he was one of, if not the best pass blocking running back in this class, but he's struggling at the NFL level. So clearly something going on there that the coaching staff does not trust with Trayvon Henderson. And until they do, they're not giving him a workhorse role, no matter how many fucking times Ramondre Stevenson fumbles. So with this backfield now shaping up to just be 2 players, it obviously raises the floor and the ceiling of both of those guys rather than Gibson just coming in and, siphoning 8 to 10 touches per game away from them. So another lucky break for Henderson owners. Still don't know if you could trust him at all. On the flip side, Josh Allen, good day. James Cook, underwhelming day for fantasy owners, but what are you going to do? It's going to happen. Receiving wise, Kincaid's, man, he's really coming on. He's one way or another, he's just getting it done in fantasy. Some days it's 1 catch for 30 yards and a touchdown. Last night he was the focal point of their passing game, 6 for 108. Let's see if his routes jumped up at all. I imagine they did. Utilization, season stats. Again, fantasylife.com, code BDGE if you get a subscription there. Get your 20% off. So he's 60% on the year. 60% in week 5. Yep, that's the Dalton Kincaid experience. So I still think there are probably going to be up and downs, but he's definitely, a top 12, top 10 guy going forward just because you want to attach yourself to good offenses here. What else? Anything else to take away from this receiver room? Not really. Not really. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the week 5 stream. Recapped every game by game. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We do this every Monday morning. Tomorrow, we will have the waiver wire video up probably by around noon Eastern time. You can get my waiver wire rankings on bdge.co if you become a Big Dog member. We've got waiver wire rankings. We got the fab suggestions. We got our weekly rankings, of course. And we've got our private sit start every Saturday morning for you guys to ask me any questions that you may have for your particular lineups. Go have yourselves a big fucking day and shout out Rico Dowdle. Smoochies.